Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a journey into something I think incredibly resonant. It's a topic that touches many of us, really. Our source material is, well, it's a really fascinating set of excerpts from a book called Dear Misfits, Finding Your Place in a Loud World. It's by Rainbow Neesmith, and it's coming out in 2025. What's particularly interesting here is that the book comes out of the Institute for Emergent Thought, or IET. Now, IET is described as this hub, for interdisciplinary collaboration, all focused on exploring concepts like emergence and adaptive frameworks. Just quickly, emergence is basically how complex, often surprising new things like, say, an ecosystem or even someone's personality can arise from simpler interactions. And adaptive frameworks, well, those are flexible ways of thinking, of behaving that help people or systems thrive even when things are changing or chaotic. So you can see how this IET background sets the stage perfectly for a book about finding your place when, the standard molds don't fit. What grabs you right away is the voice. It's incredibly unique, very intimate. It's written like a personal letter from Rainbow herself. She shares that she wasn't born in a hospital or raised in a town, but actually born in a story, raised in a republic built by love and imagination. And she admits, very powerfully, that she still gets the ache of not being understood. So who's this book actually for? Rainbow says it's for anyone who feels they don't quite belong, whose thoughts feel too big, too weird, too colorful. And here's the core promise, and it's profound. You're not broken, you're a misfit. Being a misfit, she suggests, isn't a flaw. It's just a different path. Maybe harder sometimes, yeah, but ultimately more honest, more interesting, and one day more beautiful.
Right. And what's truly insightful there is how Neesmith basically recodes the whole idea of belonging. It's fascinating. Instead of it being about fitting in externally, she roots it really deeply in internal validation, self-acceptance, which, mirrors a lot of modern psychology that emphasizes self-compassion as the foundation for healthy connection. It suggests misfits might actually be leading the way towards authenticity.
I totally see that. And she offers to guide us, too. Promises to talk like a friend. A quiet friend with a pocket full of stars, helping us name the feelings, soften the shame, draw new maps, and ultimately find the way home. Yeah, such a warm, inviting tone. Okay, let's really unpack this for you, our listener, and see how Rainbow's insights can help us reframe how we understand ourselves, maybe the world, too. Let's start with that feeling, that often silent experience, the feeling of not belonging. Rainbow describes it as a strange kind of quiet, but not peaceful quiet. More like a heavy, hollow quiet, like an empty room where your thoughts just echo back, maybe not so kindly sometimes. It's that feeling, right? After you speak, you wonder, did I even make sense? Or sitting alone, maybe not because you chose to, but because, as she puts it, no one saw your invitation written in your eyes.
It's very relatable. And connecting this to the bigger picture, Rainbow really asserts that, the world wasn't built for everyone. That's a powerful statement. She points to these societal systems, schools expecting kids to be still, playgrounds expecting them to be loud systems that can make someone thoughtful or just different feel fundamentally made wrong.
Yeah.
Because these systems often prioritize conformity, right? Which naturally creates friction for anyone who doesn't quite fit that specific mold.
But then, and this is where it gets really empowering, she offers this strong counter-narrative. She says, but you're not made wrong. You're made rare. And rare things don't always fit into common boxes. I love that. She gives this incredible reassurance, too, saying, it's not just you. Misfits, she says, are like scattered like stars, part of this hidden constellation. They just haven't found each other yet. Like how she eventually found her connection with someone she calls Wendell.
And this feeling of difference, it can often show up as what she calls the lonely kind. It becomes this constant ache, a quiet absence that no one sees. It's often not about big, dramatic conflicts, but more the buildup of small, silent moments, forgotten moments that hurt, makes you feel like you're on a different planet.
Like being invisible almost.
Exactly. The loneliness of being unseen, which is different from just being alone.
And if you felt that, you've probably tried, right? Tried joining clubs, forcing the small talk, changing your clothes, your tone, trying to fit. But Rainbow says these attempts often end up feeling like a mismatch. And crucially, that's not you failing. It's your truth trying to stay intact, sort of pushing back against being forced into something that isn't you.
Yeah, and broadening that out a bit, the author suggests that the world doesn't teach belonging, not in a truly authentic way anyway. The systems we have, school, society, they tend to prioritize performance, obedience, and sameness. But misfits, because they are different, often bring this unique strength, a fresh perspective, a new way of seeing things. Something the world doesn't always recognize until it actually needs something new, something honest, something only misfits can offer.
And here's that radical reframing of loneliness. It's not a verdict, she says, it's a guidepost. Loneliness is a clue. It suggests that maybe the people you need haven't found you yet, or perhaps they're still becoming who they need to be to meet you.
Mm.
She says, you aren't broken, you're just early. Wow, that's a really comforting thought.
It is. And to your earlier point about how someone distinguishes that early feeling from maybe more serious isolation, I think Rainbow implies the clue isn't passive. It's an internal signal, right? Telling you your current environment isn't resonating with your true self. So following the clue isn't just about frantically looking outward. It's more about cultivating that authentic self inwardly. When you really embrace those rare qualities, you send out a different signal. It makes it easier for the right people to find you or for you to recognize them.
Okay, so it's less seeking, more becoming.
Exactly. A shift from outward seeking to inward cultivation.
Okay, building on that, this idea of being made rare, Rainbow then talks about something many misfits feel deeply, the unseen value of you. She addresses how society can just be, well, blind to your value, judging you for being too quiet, too loud, too curious, too emotional, just different. But being different, she argues, isn't a flaw. It's actually like a mirror reflecting back what the world might be missing.
And a really striking point she makes is your worth is not a vote. It's not about popularity contests. She reminds us that, some of the most beautiful souls in history were lonely in their time. Why? Because they were ahead of their time, or they just existed outside of the narrow boxes society builds. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How do we cultivate that internal compass? How do we learn to be our own witness and really see ourselves first?
Yeah, especially when everything seems geared towards seeking external approval. It's a real challenge, particularly if you have a trait like sensitivity, which she talks about next. Sensitivity is not a flaw. For some people, the world just feels louder, the lights are brighter, sound sharper, emotions heavier. And while society often seems to reward being, desensitized.
Right, thick-skinned.
Exactly. She argues that sensitivity is actually a kind of heightened awareness. It lets you notice what others miss and feel what others ignore.
And that connects directly to emotions, doesn't it? She says your feelings are not a flaw. Being told you're too sensitive or too emotional, that completely misses the point. Feelings are vital, signals, truths, and reflections of your experience. She even says you are strong for carrying so much truth inside, which is such a powerful reframing. It reminds me of that feeling after a good cry, that sense of release, almost strength.
Absolutely. But what if you have, as she puts it, big feelings in a small world?
Yeah.
Rainbow acknowledges the world isn't always built for your size of heart, for that emotional depth. And her advice is pretty radical. Don't shrink. The world must grow to meet you.
It's defiant, isn't it? And really empowering. And what's particularly insightful is how she then positions empathy as a superpower. That ability to feel deeply, to pick up on subtle emotional cues that enables profound love, understanding, kindness. It makes it a truly rare, valuable gift. She even validates crying, saying it's okay to cry. Sees it as processing, healing, like rain helps flowers grow. Its vulnerability is strength.
And this next point, I think this will resonate deeply with a lot of people. The power of quietness, often getting labeled too quiet or shy. Rainbow states really powerfully that quietness isn't the absence of power, it is the presence of depth. Quiet people, she notes, often notice the most. They see what others miss and they think with care.
And that quietness, she explains, is exactly why listening is an art. It leads misfits to become, potentially, the best listeners, the most compassionate friends, maybe even wise leaders or creative minds. She says stillness is a teacher. It gives you space for ideas, for truths to actually surface without all the noise, which really makes you think, how can we truly tune into our own inner volume, in a world that seems to constantly demand we shout or at least broadcast everything?
That's such a beautiful and, necessary way to put it. So, to sum up this whole section, Rainbow's message seems clear. You're not broken because the world feels too loud. It's more like you are tuned differently. And that difference, once embraced, can become the most beautiful song you've ever heard. Okay, so from understanding our value, we shift now to actively shaping our lives, starting with this idea. Your weirdness is a compass. Rainbow says being called weird just means different. And different is exactly what the world needs. It points you towards places no one else has gone.
Which naturally leads to prioritizing originality over popularity. Fitting in, she argues, usually means squeezing into existing boxes. But originality, that comes from breaking the boxes. Misfits often end up as inventors, artists, and visionaries, she says, not because they fit in, but precisely because they stood out.
Yeah, it's a compelling case for just embracing what makes you different. And this is such an empowering thought she offers. You are the beginning of something new. If you feel out of place, she suggests, maybe it's because the place you're meant to build hasn't been made yet. Your weirdness can actually become your path, maybe even your home.
Mm-hmm. And another powerful insight here is about kindness in a cruel world. Rainbow reframes kindness completely. It's not weakness, she says. It's strength. It is rebellion. And then she offers this really profound thought. You don't need armor. You are the shelter. It's about radiating resilience from within, not building walls outside.
Wow, that image really sticks with you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it flies right in the face of that pressure to conform, which she addresses next. Don't shrink to fit.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever been told you're too much, too loud, too quiet, too intense, too sensitive, too honest, too dreamy, Rainbow just calls that a lie. She says, you are exactly as much as you need to be to fill the life that is meant for you.
Which immediately makes you ask, right, what parts of ourselves do we maybe hide or tone down just to fit into a world that doesn't fully get us? And the author warns pretty starkly that fitting in isn't worth the cost. It often means losing your authentic self, silencing your voice, dimming your light. That's just too high a price.
So instead of shrinking, Rainbow's ultimate call to action is make space instead. She says, you were born to make space for yourself, for your truth, for others like you, which leads directly into this huge concept, make your own world.
And the core truth underpinning this, as she puts it, is that the world was never made for you. Society, she argues, was often built for systems, not souls, designed to reward conformity, efficiency, not necessarily individual flourishing. So connecting that to the bigger picture, Neesmith's message is really clear. You don't need to fit in, you need to build out. That's the quiet rebellion she talks about.
And she even gives us building materials. Builds with kindness, courage, and weirdness. Use your softness, your wonder, your questions, your unique colors. Those are your tools.
Yeah, so wrapping up this theme of creation, the call is really to define yourself and then build something truer, more real. As Rainbow puts it, peace isn't found, it's made. And misfits are the best makers of all. It's a powerful call to actively, intentionally create your own reality, not just passively accept what's given.
What a journey this deep dive has been today. Really profound stuff. From that initial ache, that feeling of not belonging, Rainbow Neesmith, through Dear Misfits, really guides us towards embracing who we are, our individuality, and then actively creating a space where we can actually thrive. So the key takeaways: you're made rare, not wrong. Loneliness, it's a clue, not a final verdict. Sensitivity, quietness, those are powers, not flaws. Your weirdness is your compass. Kindness is radical strength. And maybe most importantly, don't shrink to fit. Instead, take up space and make your own world.
Which leaves us, and you, with a really potent thought to consider, drawing straight from Rainbow's wisdom. If peace isn't found, it's made, right? Then what's the very first step, maybe even a tiny step you can take today to start building a truer, more authentic world for yourself? Perhaps it's just creating a quiet corner in your own imagination, or maybe making one small, courageous choice that honors your unique self. What could that be for you?
Something really powerful to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope Rainbow's insights give you food for thought, and we really encourage you to keep exploring these ideas in your own life.